Online students, you guys are ready, right? Okay.
So excuse me, sir. I have submitted my answers privately.
Okay. Make sure the assignments are all right. So let's go ahead with the discussion, and we must finish it today. We can finish it. All right. Which row identifies the chemical change and physical change? Right. You know, boiling, melting, and all these things are physical changes. Right. Therefore, boiling is a physical change, burning raw. And physical burning, you know that its chemical formula changes. So it's a chemical change. Evaporating, yes. Burning again, raw. Dissolving, of course, when you dissolve ethanol, it's still ethanol, aqueous ethanol. It's only the physical state has changed. And the chemical changes, boiling, no. Burning, yes. So then both become yes. Then the answer is B. Right. Which process is endothermic? Endothermic means in several ways you can argue delta H is plus. Products have more energy than reactants. Now don't mix up this with bond energy. Yeah? Stored energy and the bond energy are two different things. Enthalpy change can be expressed in four different ways. One, delta H is plus. Second, products have more energy than reactants. Third, energy absorbed. These are the ways and means absorbed or taken in. These are the ways and means that you can describe endothermic reaction. And energy needed to break bonds. Here the bond state. Energy needed to break bonds. Break bonds is more. You can say break bonds in reactants. Not always necessary. Is more than energy released when bonds form. So here are four different ways that you can describe an endothermic reaction, right? So atom bonding to form molecules. Okay, that's formation of bonds. So excellent, right? So this is wrong. The chemical reaction occurring in fuel cell. Fuel cell generates energy. It generates energy. So then it can't be what endothermic. It gives out energy. Then maybe I mean out of four, not three, right? So fuel cell generates energy, right? Therefore, it can't be endothermic, right? The reaction of carbon dioxide and water to produce glucose and oxygen. This is called what? Photosynthesis. This is endothermic. This is the answer, right? Next one is burning. Next one is burning. Right. Okay. The marks that.
මම ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහලා තිබ්බා අයනස එක්සෑම් එක monthly test. ඒක endothermic කියලා දීලා තිබ්බා. පස්සේ අහලා දිනවා why is it exothermic?
Oh, that's a mistake in the question. That can be. Right. Okay, next one. The formation of liquid water from hydrogen and oxygen is thought to occur in three stages. Right? You can see the involvement of bonds. Can you see? Involvement of atoms. With an atom says they make that comes over a biodome, right? Don't worry, right? Analyze information one after the other. That's it, right? So when you look at the first one, you can see it's only breaking bonds. Breaking bonds. No new bonds are made, right? So then it's going to be endothermic. Well done. It's endothermic. Next one, separated atoms. They are combining, right? So then bond formation, right? So this is going to be exothermic. Next one, this is a gas and becoming a liquid. You know, sometimes you can't figure it out, but if you use basic kinetic particle theory, easy. Gases have like particles have high kinetic energy, liquids have low kinetic energy, then the energy has to be released. But rather than that, you can think liquid to gas is boiling, it's endothermic, gas to liquid is then exothermic. So this is exothermic. Therefore, the answer is 2 and 3, then D. All right. The enthalpy change for this reaction. Now look, they say enthalpy change, but they say only 66 kilojoules. Remember, when they say enthalpy change, you must remember the fact that it is for a mole of the reaction or for a mole of a reactant. Is that clear? Because I define that in that way. So this 66 kilojoules is when 1 mole of nitrogen reacts with 2 moles of oxygen, give you 2 moles of NO2. That's what this means. Right? Make a nitrogen make a definition because 1 mole of nitrogen reacting. And they say if 2 moles of nitrogen, this is the use and this is an easy. Right? All right. 2 moles of nitrogen and 2 moles of oxygen are used. What will be the enthalpy change? C. C. B. D. C. C. Why do you say C? So
then answer D. That's not being paid.
Where? Right? 132 kilograms. No. Huh? B. 33. Okay. How would they give you make a lazy paper lazy? Paper. If you have 1 mole of nitrogen, you need 2 moles of oxygen. Very important explanations are in. You have to look at the pointing also. If you have 1 mole of nitrogen, 2 moles of oxygen anyway required. Now they say 2 moles of nitrogen. If 2 moles of nitrogen used, how many moles of oxygen required? 4. Method of 4 the but no 4. Then there is no 4. If that's so, who is limiting? Oxygen is limiting. That means the reaction happens according to oxygen's quantity. That limited reagents are make a question. They give 2 moles of nitrogen oxygen 4 moles. I told you no. Whenever they give quantities of 2 reactants, trick sure limiting reagent right? So who is limiting here? Oxygen. Therefore, 2 moles of oxygen only reacting. 2 moles of oxygen giving you 66 kilojoules. Therefore, the answer is C. You are correct. Right? It's C. While guess taking right? Even though this is 2, right? This is in excess, right? I'm guessing.
That is the last question. MCQ
32. That's what I told you. මම කිව්වනේ මේ method එක කොච්චර important ද කියලා. අනිත් ඒවා කරලා sure නැති එක අන්තිමටම කරනකොට sometimes you are luck or karma or God or whoever help you. Right? Okay. හැබැයි වා මුල ඉඳන්ම මේ if you are pleading the God, okay, give me the marks, he won't look at it. Why? අම්සෙට පාඩම් කරන්න තියෙද්දි මේ මගෙන් මට කරදර කර කර ඉන්නේ කියලා එයා මැඩමනේ ඉන්නේ. හරිද? But if you do your part and then finally you find your chance, yes, there is chance. Right? Okay. Right, let's move on. Fifth one, which around the energy level, overall energy change for an endothermic reaction. Overall energy change. Very good question, eh? Right? What the answer? B for boiler, mine. Overall energy change is reactant to products. When the but reactants to products. හරියට මාක් කරන්න බොරු කරන්න එපා රෙඩ් පෙන් එකකින් වැඩේ කරන්න right අපි වෙනමත් මාක් කරන ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ grid එක පොර කරලා හොයන්න එපා හරිද okay right next one for the forward reaction of reversible reaction enthalpy change I okay, offer, mark, offer. Right? Forward reaction or reverse, right? The forward reaction of a reversible reaction, enthalpy change is exothermic. Minus 50. R products a forward reaction exothermic. Activation energy plus 60, right? Then they are asking backward reaction activation energy means you have to come back over here. Therefore, plus 110. Plus 110. Here are some reversible reactions like that. Here and there, right? Reversible reaction, whenever it's a different lesson. We'll be learning under lesson called equilibrium. Okay? Equilibrium. Right. So we will avoid this mark. Don't worry. Right. Seventh one. A student wrote 2 conclusions about calcium carbonate. Annoying questions. Right. Annoying questions. Right. The reaction with dilute hydrochloric acid is faster with calcium carbonate than with large pieces. Oh, that's good. True statement. Conclusion 2. Grinding large pieces of calcium carbonate to form powder increases the surface area. True. Oh, not that annoying, no? Take a lazy. True, and then second explains 1. Because the reaction is faster because more surface area is there. Smart, like grade 9 both conclusions. Okay, so both conclusions are correct and conclusion 2 explains the conclusion 1. Of course. A. Right. Both conclusions are correct, but conclusion doesn't explain the conclusion 1. Okay. Right. Which statement is correct? An enzyme is a biological catalyst that decreases the activation energy of reaction. Right. Next one. Some bond energies are given. The energy change for the reaction. We know you guys are much smarter than this is 600 and here 440 plus 150, 590, in minus out. 80 plus 10 kilojoules per mole. Agree? Yes. Plus 10. මේ හරි ලිස් question වලදී HI දෙන්නයි ඉන්නේ. Sorry. 2HI and HHII. HHII. Okay. This friend is calling. Pick करे නැත්නම් එන ගැටලුවක්. Okay. Next one. Yeah. Right. Next one. Which statement explains why increasing the concentration of a reactant increases the rate of reaction? It will increase the number of particles in unit volume, so the frequency of collisions will increase. That's the story, right? The greater proportion of particles have activation energy. Who is that? Make out the way. Temperature, very good. Right? Temperature will increase. The proportion of particles have the activation energy. Well, huh? Rugby match again, the dextrose field, okay? Right? Okay, particles have more energy. No. Particles don't get more energy when the concentration is high. There are more particles in same volume, so that there are more frequent collisions. Easy. Great. Following out the great lesson to think about right? Right. Next one. Which statement about this reaction is correct? This is endothermic reactants, low, products up, right? Endothermic activation energies. Don't forget activation energy. The particular reaction forward reactant. We know only the forward reaction so far. You must start from both enthalpy activation energy. You must start from reactants. Whatever the energy change they ask, you have to start from reactant level. Activation energy now transition state. The height of the harm. Enthalpy change now products. Reactants and products real difference. The activation energy all the way up. All the way up. This is activation. Right? Without R to P. P minus R. Therefore, the answer is B. Yeah, Rashid.
Sir, like in some papers, I saw that PQ sir, activation energy, sir. So what's the difference between?
Some papers may ප්‍රශ්නෙම නෙමෙයි නිතින. එතකොට වෙන මොකක් හරි දීලා තියෙනවා.
Sir, at what occasions do we put like PQ in as the activation energy?
Nitila, it depends on the graph they have given. It's not the same graph here. You get it?
Yes.
මේ graph එකම නෙමෙයි. මේ graph එක වගේ තමයි හැම graph එකකම hump එකක් තියෙනවා, reactants, products තියෙනවා, but it couldn't be an endothermic process. And labeling with PQR regular වෙන පැත්තකට දාලා තිබ්බා. They must have put P at the bottom, Q at the middle, and the R at the top. එතකොට answer එක වෙනස් නේ නිතින්.
Sir, always sir, when we mark activation energy, we put P and R. Is it?
එහෙම කවුද PNR දාලා තියෙන්නේ? එහෙම එකක් දැම්මේ නෑ මම. මම define කරේ activation energies from reactants to transition state. Right, නිතිල? කැමති explain කරන්න. කැමති එක්කෙනෙක්ට alphabet එකම දාන්න පුළුවන් මේවට. අපි කොහොමද activation energies PNR කියන මතක තියාගන්නේ? It is the theory. What's the theory? Activation energies starting from reactants to the top of the hump. Right? Enthalpy change starting from the reactants only until what? Products. Enthalpy change, the real change of the energies. reactants and products. Activation is from the reactants to top of the mountain. Therefore, the answer is B. Nitin, I think you are okay with that, huh? Don't buy hard stuff like that, Haridhan. Activation energies P and R, HEMA current affair. They will change next day, right? All right, next question. Are we doing the paper at a correct pace? Yes. All right, so root 1, root 2. Roots tunna gaman kawada matak wenne? Catalyst, right? So the root 2 has lower energy, right? Which statement about the reactions are correct? More energy is needed to break the bonds than the release when formed. This is a good question, right? A good question. This is a question where both energetics and kinetics connected, right? The සමහර ළමයි answer ලියනකොට energetics වලින් answer එක ලියනකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ brain එකේ energetics විතරයි. They don't think about kinetics. Some people, when they are answering the questions, they think only about kinetics. Energetics හිතන්නේ. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ ළමයි. In reality, when you are doing a reaction, both energetics and rate of reaction must be considered. Both rate and the heat energy that produce or release must be considered. Is that clear? Right? Therefore, when you go by the answers, first of all, this is an exothermic reaction. Exothermic means more energy is released when the bonds form than the energy needed to break the bonds. More energy is needed to break, wrong. Exothermic, more energy needed to break when the bad, that's wrong. So then it's endothermic. Root 1 and root 2 give the same overall reaction. Of course, same products. They can be right? Therefore, that's true. Root 2 involves use of a catalyst, possibly. Different route, low activation energy. The reaction is exothermic, of course. Then the answers are 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. Now you can give it. 3, 4. Why then I can't put it. All right, next one. The table shows the energy release by the complete combustion of some compounds. When the challenging question. Some of you guys can't understand how on the earth we find this, right? But this is very simple. Listen, this is very simple. They are asking shows energy release by the complete combustion of some compounds. They are asking what if you burn 1 gram, right? Equations logic maths them use maths this is minus 3270 kilojoules per mole. Make out the lamai 78 count. 78 is joules per mole. What is that? Molar mass. When you divide this, moles will cancel out. Answer is what? Kilojoules per gram. Kilojoules per gram. Divide this by this. And tell the answer. Next, again. Which one has the least energy? Benzene. Are you sure? All right, benzene. Did you figure out that? Did you figure out that when there is less number of carbon atoms, right? You have more energy released per 1 gram. But benzene and heptane, of course, slightly different. There is a reason in higher chemistry that you don't need to talk about that now. Yeah.
Octane can only use
Petrol. Yeah. There is a nice lesson called organic chemistry. My favorite. right? Upcoming. We will be doing probably after another lesson. Next lesson is equilibrium and industries. After that, organic. Organic and nano, right?
More like after January or
January to March. Which row about the reaction in the conical flask is correct? This is an alkali dilute acid. Therefore, this is a neutralization reaction. Usually what? Exothermic. Right? So the reaction is exothermic. It should be what? Negative. Exothermic, it should be negative. Some of you can't like figure out the answer because you don't use the knowledge from the other lessons. Right? Chemistry lamai whenever separately right? You have to connect it. Is that clear? Right? Okay. So let me just have a just a check on the students. I can see only Dulmika, Nitida, Januka, Ashika. Right? Those who are not adhering this rule, next day onwards, I'm going to remove your online admission, Lamai. Online admission, Ainkarnoma syllabus second, right? I'm going to check this video and I will double check with your messages that you have sent. Online admission, Ainkarnoma. Hare? Those who haven't told me whether you are joining or not. I have given in the theory, right? Yeah, this is usually they say take was alkali. Normally, all the alkali we have in the syllabus are strong alkali, except for ammonia. It's a very good point. And dilute acid, it's an alkali and acid. So then possibly it is strong acid and strong base reaction. Because alkalis, we have only ammonia, all the other alkalis are strong alkalis, right? Let me tell you, some neutralization reactions are endothermic, means they are not actually the normal neutralization reactions. They are the neutralization of substances such as carbonates, hydrogen carbonates. They are not bases, right? They are not bases, they are basic salts. So here when they say alkali, then the chance of the neutralization reaction goes endothermic is almost zero. Right? So here some neutralization reactions, but I didn't say they are acid-base reactions. They are acid-carbonate reactions. Right? Some acid-carbonate reactions can go what? Endothermic. That can cool them. Okay, very good point. That's good. You have to be sharp like that to reach the best results possible. Next one. Which graph represents how the rate of reaction varies with time and the excess of calcium carbonate reacts with hydrochloric acid, right? So whenever a reaction produces a gas, you can measure the rate of reaction in two ways. Either you measure the mass or you measure the volume of gas. That's what we do, right? So here they are measuring the rate, but surprisingly, they haven't given either one. They haven't given you what? Volume as the x-axis, or they haven't given you mass of the system as the, volume as the y-axis, mass as the y-axis. They just have given you rate. So what happens to the rate of a reaction when time goes?
increases, then decreases
When-
to zero.
Increases and decreases. Okay, listen to me. This is the volume of carbon dioxide over time. Right? This is the graph with volume over carbon dioxide. Right? If you check the gradient is the rate. What is happening to the gradient? Increase or decrease? Gradient and decrease. Right? So if this is the gradient rate 4, rate 5. Let me say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why did I write it as R? The gradient in this graph is what? Rate of reaction. So rate of reaction is decreasing with time. Rate of reaction is decreasing with time. Sometimes linearly, sometimes not. And the reaction will go, rate will go 0 at one level because when the reaction stops. So what would be the best answer here? Right? Let's see the C වල තියෙන rate. Rate කියන්නේ මේකට gradient එක. Time එකත් එක්ක gradient එකට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Rate එකට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Rate is going to decrease. Now you have two options. What are the two options? Right, B and D. Now look at D. D is like, okay, the rate decreases straight away. Right? Is it possible or not? Now rate එකත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? Normally that fluctuate, right? It can't like decrease linearly. Therefore, the possible answer, but anyway, we'll check whether we have more reasons. How the rate of reaction varies with the time when excess calcium carbonate reacts in dilute hydrochloric acid. So possibly it has to go to 0, but it's a small problem. It hasn't gone to 0. But let's assume this is much suitable than just straight away going down. Right? Okay. Because you know that initially the rate is usually high and at the end the rate is exponentially it becomes slower, right? To make a A-level question, kind of an A-level question, right? You're not A-level. Okay. On 16, question number 16. Question number 16. In these graphs, now it's the volume versus time, right? The steepness of the graph, the steepness or the gradient of the graph tells you the rate. It tells you the rate. The rate is affected by the factors affecting the rate of reaction. But the plateau, this amount of energy, sorry, amount of products, this amount of products, it depends on the amount of limiting reagent. Amount of limiting reagent. Amount of limiting reagent. All right. So then let's have a look at this. You can see P and Q. This is the first experiment and we have P and Q, right? So P is faster than the first experiment. Q, can you see, is less in the gradient. So it's slower and also less products produced, right? And then P uses a catalyst and Q has a lower temperature. Now tell me, Q, the amount of limiting reagent has changed, right? There is no other way the amount of products change other than you are changing the limiting reagent. Temperature can't change the final product, okay? Right? Temperature can't change the final product. Therefore, temperature, lowering temperature is wrong because it has given you less products, right? P uses more concentrated acid. Q uses smaller pieces of solid. That's again wrong. Smaller pieces means faster reaction. Smaller pieces means faster reaction. Faster than Q, it should be faster, higher in gradient. Therefore wrong. P uses higher temperature. All right. Higher temperature means faster reaction. All right, agreed. Cube uses 25 cm cube of more dilute. More dilute. Look at this. More dilute means slow, slower. Fine. Q is slower. And in the experiment, they use 25 cm cube of hydrochloric acid. Same volume. හැබැයි ළමයි concentration එක අඩු වෙන්නේ more dilute කියන්නේ 0.05 වගේ. Now you have less moles of limiting reagent. More dilute means with the same volume, more dilute. Through N equals CV, what can you tell? If concentration is reduced, I told you in the class, concentration is the factor which can change both amount and the gradient. Right? When you decrease the concentration, it has to become slower and it is going to give you less moles, same volume, less moles. Right? So for example, 0.125 divided 1000 means 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 3 moles. If you use half the concentration, just assume 25 divided by 1000 means it's going to be 1.25 into 10 to the power minus 3 moles. Concentration will change the rate, limiting reagent, as well as the amount. Thereby, the answer is what? C. Right? Thereby, the answer is C. MCQ වලට තමයි time එක යන්නේ essay වලට යන්නේ time එක. Don't worry. Because the answer, the marks scheme answers are already available. Right? ඒක හරි ගිහිල්ලා. Okay, let's move on. Bromate, bromide, and hydrogen ions react like this. Same apparatus. Some apparatus for measuring how the rate of reaction varies over the time is suggested. Let's look at this. Now, bromine is a gas. Bromine is aqueous. They have given bromine is aqueous.
So no gases.
No gases. Be careful. Look at the data given. Just because you have heard bromine is a vapor, don't just select syringe. Look at information. This is an AO2 question, right? By heart කරලා යන්න බෑ හැමදෙස්සෙම. aqueous නම් gas එකක් හැදෙන්නේ, right? But anyway, you can see H plus is there. ඒ කියන්නේ තමයි you want to measure කරන්න පුළුවන් මොකද්ද? EH. EH is there. And there is no gas produced, so balance, nothing to do with the balance. Because the total mass has to be constant because nothing is going out and nothing is coming in. Thereby, this reaction can be only followed by what? pH meter. There is no gas to measure the syringe.
This format is exactly the way Edexcel gives.
Edexcel or MCQ ne?
Edexcel 20 MCQ, 20 MCQ then.
Edexcel or MCQ? Edexcel or 20 MCQ තියෙන්නේ ඒ වගේ. O level වල තියෙන්නේ තැන් වල එහෙම MCQs දානවා ඒක. MCQ like questions.
practical එක
Edexcel. Edexcel එකේ papers දෙකයි තියෙන්නේ. 1C 2C. 1C paper is 2 hour theory paper, 2C paper is also 1 hour and 10 minutes theory paper. ඒගොල්ලෝ theory papers කියලා જાතියක් නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලෝ paper එක ඇතුලේ MCQs උත් තියෙනවා, theories උත් තියෙනවා, practicals උත්. Online
they get to all three science subjects.
ඔව් මසාලා හොද්දක් වගේ. ඔක්කොම ලුණු જાති තියෙනවා ඒ වගේ තමයි. ඒගොල්ලෝ එහෙම එකක් නෑ. Please. It depends on how you work. And how you're taught as well, right? Edexcel practice, but anyway, the science chemistry is the same. Chemistry is the same. Chemistry, Edexcel chemistry, Cambridge chemistry and journals are there. Scientific papers are there. Same chemistry. Evaluation paper type is different. That's it. ඒ විදියට paper practice කරාම result එක ගන්න. හරි. Okay. හරි. Then go on with it. When some of you guys are looking at my goodness, what is this question? මේ ඉරි ගහලා තියෙනවා අපිට, right? කොහොමද මේක කරන්නේ? Right? So let me explain you, right? Whenever there is very complicated question, I have one golden rule told you. What you have to do? Go to basics. Go to basics. Basics will definitely solve the issues. They are saying you have something called xp and yq, right? X and y are stoichiometric numbers. Like 1, 2, 2, 1, මොකක් හරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි දන්නේ. Right? These are. But they say 2 experiments are carried out to investigate the rate of reaction. Different temperatures T1 and T2 are used. Right? The value temperature T1, T2. Very reverse thinking and temperature is affecting only rate of reaction. In the graph, rate is the gradient. Understood? In the graph, rate is the gradient. And temperature ka වැඩි කරොත් gradient එක වැඩි වෙනවා. Basics. Temperature කඩු කරොත් gradient එක අඩු වෙනවා. දැන් මේ දෙන්නගේ කාගේද gradient එක වැඩි? T1 ද T2 ද? T1 gradient is එහෙනම් ළමයි T1 is higher than T2. Very lazy. T1 is higher than T2. See now the T1 is higher than T2.
A and C.
Yes, A and C. Then these two are gone. These two are gone. What is that? Stoichiometric number. Okay. Basics. Kinetic basics. Where are the stoichiometry related in kinetic lesson in the graph? Is it related to rate or it is related to the amount of products produced? Right? Stoichiometry ආවේ rate එකට stoichiometry එක relate උනාද? නෑනේ, amount of products. Why, if you know the amount of limiting reagent, put the stoichiometry and find the products. You know the mind. When you look at this, this is your reactant amount. Here, how many squares are reactants? How many squares? 6. Then 6. Hurry. Q. Nine. Reactant 6. Products 9. What's the ratio? 6 to 9 කියන්නේ ළමයි 2:3. Right? X2. Right? කවුද කිව්වේ paper එක දේශි කියලා? මොකද? අනිත් එක 3:2. Reactants के stoichiometry එක අඩුයි, product के stoichiometry එක වැඩි. Right? ඒක තමයි කියන්න ඕනේ හරියට. ඒක තමයි ස්ටුඩන්ට් කෙනෙක් කරන්න ඕන දේ. ඒකින්ද තමයි මේ වගේ ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරන්නේ. ප්‍රැක්ටිස් ක්ලාස් එකේදී ඒක ඉගෙන ගත්තම මේ ගේම් එකේදී කරන්න එපා වැරද්ද. Next one. Which additional pieces of apparatus are essential for the investigation? Syringe එකක් හයි කරලා තියෙනවා. එන balance එකක් ඕනේ. Right? Measuring cylinder එකකුත් ඕනේ.
Concentration.
Well, the volume of gas in the syringe is recorded after 1 minute. The experiment is repeated using repeated. Experiment එක repeat කරනවා නම් hydrochloric acid ආපු දාන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට measuring cylinder එක ඕනේ. You have to measure it and put. හරි. තමන්ම කියා ගන්න. Right? මේකේ තුනම ඕනේ ළමයි හරිද?
Yes.
තුනම ඕනේ.
So,
ඒ ළමයි experiment එක repeat කරනවා නම්
Calcium carbonate.
you have to put the same mass of what?
Calcium carbonate.
Calcium carbonate. එතකොට balance එකක් තියෙනවා මේකේ.
So, what is it?
Like says D.
Carbonate, the others are command.
Oh, right? I know my repeat karna, you have to use the same amount of calcium carbonate, otherwise it's not a correct one, right? Experiment repeated using different concentration of hydrochloric acid, they can same amount of calcium carbonate down. You know, how much time is required for the half the carbonate is reacted with an value time maker 3 in a 1.5 minutes. Simple as that. Bad here. Right. Essay solved right? Ready? Okay. Or describe and explain using ideas about collision between particles, how the rate of this reaction changes in the right. The rate of reaction decrease. When we make experiment and they are asking why the rate decreases with time. Right? That's because the one rate of reaction decreases with time. No mark. The obvious thing. Take the reason with time, what will happen? The reactant particles concentration less. So fewer collisions. First point you have to say, anyway, rate is decreasing. Reaction right? No studying at all. At the beginning rate is high, studying rate is high. First is snoring. Okay. So then the reason fewer particles in unit volume because the reactants are used up with time and less frequent collisions. Then mark 1 mark for each argument. Right? හැබැයි මේක එකක් තියෙනවා. ඔයා rate of reaction decreases කියලා ලියලා නැත්තම් මාක් එකක් අඩු වෙනවා. එහෙම තමයි ඒක. එහෙම තමයි ළමයි this is an unfair world anyway. Right? How the rate is changing you have to explain it. Right?
So, කොහේ හරි ඒක ලියන්න තියන්නේ ඔය.
කොහේ හරි කියන්නේ උත්තරන්නේ. වෙන කොහේ හරි කොමාක්ස් දාන්න. Properly mark කරන්න ස්වරූප කරන්න එපා man red pen එක ගන්න blue pen එක පැත්තකින් තියන්න red pen එක මොකක් හරි වුණා. Right. Describe and explain how the rate of this reaction changes when large pieces are then rate will decrease. No mark. Sorry. Okay. All other conditions stay the same because when the particles are larger, surface area is less.
දැන් මේකේ මාක් දෙන්න ඉස්සර ඒකට මාක් එක අලු කරනවා.
ඔව් මේකෙත් එහෙමයි. ඔයා මේක particles are large කියලා තියලා නිකන් තිබ්බොත් ලකුණු නැහැ. ඇයි වා decrease කියලා ලියලා නැහැ?
In the MCQ, you can exactly
But approximately you can.
no. But data answer can be taken like you find the volume.
Yeah.
Then you divide by 2, you have to find it.
Yeah.
So it's 0.95.
0.9. Seriously?
So it's 40. 45 cm. Anything. Taking it in the graph, it goes to 0.1.
Yes, Lamai, I have to change my decision in the previous one. Ovindu is correct. Ovindu is correct. Please go back. He is correct in this. 1000 apologies for this. Luckily, he did the proper analysis. Because I was going to like use the A-level method. Then I thought they would not give A-level method. They will ask a simple method. Actually, we had used the A-level method for this. but I'll explain you what is it, right? Then make a 3 divide by 2, that's a half. But that half the time of the reaction. But they ask, let's say, if they do they ask that, they ask how much time is required. Half the calcium carbonate is reacted. Yes, I am wrong. 1000 apologies. Right? When you look at the amount of calcium carbonate produced is 90. They are not asking what is the half of the reaction time. They are asking half of the volume produced. It's going to be, this is 50, this is 45. Then when you check 45, it's 0.95. Well done. The answer is A. That's how we do in the universe also. We call this half-life method. What do you call this?
That's not.
Maths. Maths half-life, right?
median
medium මෙතන දැන් median එක ගන්න බෑ මෙතනට. median එක ගන්න බැරි මොකද මේක amount එක change වෙලා නැන්නේ linearly. linearly වුණා නම් ඒක හරියි. Right? This is called maybe statistically fine. We call it half-life. That means the time taken for half of the reaction taken place. It's not the half time. And ඒක රවි වලින් ගන්න බෑ 150 maybe 1.5 hours full time, half time is ඒක දෙකෙන් බෙදලා ගන්න බෑ, right? half life or the half time of the reaction means half the products produced. So 90 to what? 45. 90 to 45, right? Okay, so I took it very optimistically. Sorry about it, right? Therefore the answer is what? 0.95. right? Write it in that way. So they ask, what's the time for you to prepare half of calcium carbonate, react half of calcium carbonate? That means half of carbon dioxide is produced, right? So then you have to come down. All right. Okay. So let's go back. Next one. Ekari. So the reaction of cerium is exothermic. Complete the energy profile diagram. So you have cerium and sulfuric. So you can write here because there is a lot to write. Therefore, you can just write reactants. You can't just leave it empty. You have to say reactants, products. It is exothermic, so it has to go down. Delta H is minus. Do they ask us to mark the activation energy? Complete the energy profile diagram to show the enthalpy change for this reaction. Delta H twenty. One mark, products lower than the reactants, right? With the diagram drawn. And then arrow downwards, see? That's really important. I told you, right? I came to you during the theory classes and then told you the arrow directions. Activation energy is always arrow up. Enthalpy change, exothermic arrow down, endothermic arrow up. Okay? Yeah. That may arrow down කියලා
should you write in
නෑ delta H තිබ්බ නැතුව කොහොමද arrow එක තිබුණා හරි. හැබැයි දැන් ඔයා මෙහෙම කේස් එකක් තියෙනවා මේකත් මෙහෙම මාක් කරලා තිබ්බොත් වැඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. ඔය activation energy එකත් මාක් කරලා න ะ. එතකොට දැන් examiner කතාව දන්නවා වුණාට එයා බලන්නේ මෙයා මට ආන්සර් එක දීලා තියෙන විදිහට එයා හරියට enthalpy change එක විතරක් specify කරලා තියෙනවා. Therefore you better write delta H. දැන් ඔයා මෙතන පල්ලෙහාට දාලා මෙහෙම arrow එකක් උඩට දැම්මම then there is a problem. It is okay as far as you have labeled is delta H. Then no problem.
Sir,
Yeah.
so in that one, so the activation energy is from the reactants to the transition state, right?
That one විතරක් නෙමෙයි Nithila, any situation reactants to transition state.
Okay.
ඕනම graph එක reactant to transition state තමයි activation energy. මේක හරියද? මාක් දාගත්තද?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Next one. Calculate the heat energy release when 640. Now, if they give you enthalpy change here, 1 mole 98 kilojoules, right? So that's the enthalpy change. So first of all, you find the moles. So 680 divided by 34 came from M over capital N. So you find the moles. That 20 moles. What's the second equation you need to use? Heat divided by what? Moles. Right? Enthalpy change is given 98 is equal. Heat energy is what you need to find. Volume is 20. Therefore, it's 1960 kilojoules. 1 mark for moles, 1 mark for moles, 1 mark for energy. Make නම් දැන් ඉතින් කටපාඩම් ලියන්න පුළුවන් මේ. Use the ideas about bond breaking and bond forming to explain why it's exothermic. More energy is released when bonds form than the energy needed to break the bonds, right? So bond breaking is endothermic and bond forming exothermic. Bond breaking absorb energy, bond forming release energy, whatever exothermic or endothermic, we have said that. And then more energy is released than absorbed is formed. Look at how the marks are allocated. You have to refer to the fact that the bonds are broken is endothermic. Bonds formed is exothermic. Overall exothermic means more energy is released in bond forming. Right? More energy, greater energy release. Okay. Explain why catalyst increases the rate of decomposition, lowers the activation energy by giving an alternative pathway. There. Huh? And less time taken here, reaction is faster. We are 108 here. So low activation energy, you better say that, alternative pathway here, because that's how the catalyst increases rate of reaction. Okay. Catalyst absurd. Right. So it lowers the activation energy. Catalyst lowers the activation energy. Right. Next question. Marks daganna first again out of 5 out of 5. Next one. Identify the energy changes. I saw most of you guys have done it nicely. This is the enthalpy change, right? And this is the activation energy. Activation energy, right? The rate of decomposition of hot hydrogen peroxide is greater. Particles have more energy, moving faster, more successful collision. Particles with energy equal or above activation energy. More particles can overcome activation energy. So my favorite, particles have more energy, 1 mark, more kinetic energy, right? More particles have energy to overcome activation energy. Or you can say more frequent but not enough. More frequent with a temperature. More frequent and more energy in what? More energy in collisions, so that more successful collisions. Now, please do not by heart mark scheme answers. Mark scheme answer it's just a guide for marking, right? Teacher can read right? So, but don't learn from mark schemes, right? Mark scheme, don't study from mark scheme. Study the theory, right? More kinetic energy.
Then saying energy chemical kinetic.
Take 1 mark. More particles have more energy. That's 1 mark. Right? Hariයට mark කරනවා මේ වගේ point එකකට මෙයක් කරන්න. Look, not force. It's the energy. Right? Force කියන්නේ pressure.
Force exerted.
Right? Take the energy. How did you get that point? Right? Go. Yeah, you have it. You need someone. That way, they would. Okay. Name a process used in industry to produce hydrogen, electrolysis of water, or cracking of hydrocarbons. Right? Don't ask what's cracking of hydrocarbons. Right? You will learn it later. Right? Why can you answer it? Cracking out of one day, Describe two advantages of a hydrogen fuel cell compared with petrol. Right? One is no harmful gas produced, only water produced. Greater efficiency in fuel, more energy efficiency. Okay? Exact same. The last law over here. What does it mean? Then what are the last law?
Very durable.
What is durable? Which one? Then let's say, when I say engine is more efficient or fuel cell is more efficient, that makes sense, right? When I say fuel cell is more durable, what do you mean? Is that the fuel is durable? Is that the cell material is durable? Or what is durable? There is nothing called durable energy. It doesn't make sense. You get my point? Renewable. Hydrogen can be like produced from more renewable sources, like what, like electrolyzing water. Whereas petroleum is limited. That's what you meant, right? Don't use to write such short answers when you are not really sure the point. Yes.
So cheaper here.
How the cheaper?
Hydrogen fuel cell is cheaper than petroleum.
That's wrong, right? Hydrogen fuel cell is not cheaper. Again, why cheaper? Fuel cell is cheaper. Fuel is cheaper. It depends. Why? Some countries make hydrogen from electrolysis of water. Kind of expensive. Right? Eco-friendly is all right. Eco-friendly is general point. Eco-friendly. Eco-friendly, saying just eco-friendly is very general point. You'll say, why is it eco-friendly? It doesn't emit greenhouse gases or less greenhouse gas emitted. When in our durable data, renewables also pure. Right? In your Cambridge O level, you must be a little more specific, more technical in your terms. Right? Too general. Eco-friendly 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 vendor no pollutants in. Eco-friendly vendor pollutants without a connection to pollutants, still think something can be eco-friendly, right? It's not entirely related to the pollutants, right? Okay. Next one. This was kind of hard question for you guys because it looks like very complicated. The progress of the reaction can be followed by taking small sample of reaction mixture every hour and determine the concentration of hydrochloric acid. Whatever they have said, you know only one way to determine the concentration of hydrochloric acid. What is that? You are going to titrate that. React that with sodium hydroxide in a burette, HCl in the conical flask, or the other way around. Can you remember titrations? Titrations have you seen the titrations? Like you find the concentration of an alkali from anyway. We established the lab. Now the yellow practicals are going on. Now we have the third consecutive practical. essential practicals වගේක් කරනවා individually කරන්න ඕනේ ඇවිල්ලා. Right? ඔයගොල්ලන්ට වෙනම practical setup එකක් දෙනවා. හරිද? Individually ඒ practicals කරන්න ඕනේ. Not every week. We are I'm finding some person separately who can allocate time while I'm here supervising. Right? Soon after that, I get the t-shirt. I'll be starting individual practical sessions for you guys. Individual kind of group wise only, but individually correct. So हमारा titration class के पापा दंड है तो already practical का answers नहीं आने हैं.
හොඳ මිස් වත්තරන.
Don't gain the position with school there.
Right, have sulfuric acid. Once again,
Yeah, it have all. There's
that's a sulfuric acid gun tablet.
expensive.
අපේ ඉස්කෝලේ දැන් සර් විතර
No. පටන් ගන්න එපා. ඉතින් මෙතනට ගාව ගන්න එපා. හරිද? Okay. Describe a practical method by which the concentration. Okay. First one, you write titration. To do the titration, you have to measure something into the conical flask. Right? In order to measure anything into the conical, put into conical flask, you have to use what? You have to use something called pipette. Right? So suppose into the conical flask, you take sodium hydroxide into the conical flask using the pipette. Use the pipette and transfer that into the conical flask. Right? And burette should be filled with HCl. This can be either way. What on a sodium hydroxide burette down. HCl conical titration flask down. Right? And make a common if you haven't seen how the titration is done, so it's very new to you. No wonder. Right? Therefore, we'll be doing it. Right? Okay. So then you can see use the titration method.
3 point of
Yeah. Right. And suitable alkali sodium hydroxide. And if you are going to find the concentration of HCl, then you have to use known concentration of sodium hydroxide. Otherwise, you can't find what's the concentration of HCl. Right? So any of these points under particular describe a practical method by which concentration of hydrochloric acid can be determined. Conductivity meter is also acceptable answer because none of the other substances give you acid ions. ඒක හරි අන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඔයා measure කරන්නේ කොහොමද HCl concentration? How do you know like හරි ඔයා conductivity measure කරනවා. Right? ඒකත් හරි. මේ අහන්නේ describe a practical method by which the concentration of hydrochloric acid can be determined. ඒ අහන්නේ HCl की concentration හොයන්න පුළුවන් method එකක්. හැබැයි conductivity එක හොයන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකයි case. ඒක නම් කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් මට. ඔයා දැන් මේක unknown HCl solution එකක්. ඔයා ඒක measure කරලා conductivity එක ලියා ගන්න. You go to the lab and bring actual known concentration of HCl. ඒ වගේ solutions දානවා 10ක් විතර. ඒ හැම එකේම conductivity measure කරනවා. බලන්න 0.1 ට conductivity 2. 0.3 ට 0.2 ට conductivity 3. 0.4 ඒ graph එකක් අදින්න. දැන් ඔයා unknown එකේ conductivity දාන්නකො. ඒකෙන් back බලන්න පුළුවන් මොකද concentration. එහෙම කරොත් පුළුවන්. Since there is a method like that in chemistry, you get some marks for that. Measuring conductivity, right? You will get most probably 1 mark. Nothing explain karana marks. Correct? Okay. All right. So these are the points that you need to get here. reduce the concentration of hydrochloric acid after 4 hours to start. So then 4 hours here make method, right? So you have to carefully on. So it's 1.38, right? Make a practical question, right? It is found in practical paper, right? And at which point in the graph ABCD is the rate of reaction fastest? Give the reason, because at the beginning you have the highest concentration. Therefore, you will see the steepest part of the graph is beginning. Now, give a reason for your answer. Do they ask explanation for your answer? Do they ask explanation for your answer? No. No explanation asked. It's about collision theory, even more than that, right? So gradient of the graph is greatest because you see, I mean, why it is fastest, the steepness is highest. ඒක නිකන් answer එක බලලා කියන්න තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ question එකට මේ ලකුණු දෙක මේ ලකුණු තුනක් තියෙනවනේ මෙතන. මේ ලකුණු තුන ගන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ කිසිම දෙයක් පාඩම් කරලා යන්න ඕනේ. You have to go to the exam just by heart. ඒ වුණාට මේ ලකුණු තුනක් ගන්න බැරි වෙච්ච ළමයි ඉන්නව නේද? There are students who couldn't get these 3 marks even. Why? That's because your attitude on answering, right? You must have an attitude. Go and getting attitude, right? I'm going to answer read answer attitude. Is that clear? Right? You might make mistakes, but you must have got at least 1 mark. Make A select that's where the C was. Right. So let's go to the last one of this question. So give explanation, idea how the rate of reaction changes when temperature decreases. So then let's say how the rate. First of all, we have to say rate decreases. Then how the lakuna?
How the rate? So 1 mark.
Huh? How the rate? Hari, you know, our calling question rate take a change and not lakuna do. Then explanation එක තමයි හැබැයි මෙතන 3 marks තියෙන හින්දා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දෙනවා 2 marks තිබ්බොත් දෙන්නේ explanation එක there are 2 marks, so then you have to say less kinetic energy, right? And then this is the best answer. Number of particles which can overcome activation energy is less. That's the best answer. Less frequent collisions. Here is the simple answer. Less energy in collisions. And less successful collisions. Less successful collisions. Okay, describe the effect of hydrochloric acid on universal indicator reactor. It will give you what? Red color. Red color. All right. I don't have to explain how to do this calculation, right? It's so easy. Calculate the total of make it total marks again percentage right? Because a paper otherwise you can't study, right? But I want the marks, right? Calculate the total amount of energy. CL 242, BR 190, then the total is 432, right? And then BRCL is BRCL. You have two of them, therefore 218 into 2. So then 436, 432, and the overall energy is what? Minus 4. 1 mark each. 50, 20 and 30. One then one second paper first paper second paper second again. First mark we are marking your papers. 30 out of 30. No, don't do the calculation. Maybe percentage take a pass only. Out of 30 second paper we will announce you the total. Online students also, please tell me how many marks that you get out of 30 in the chat. All right, so then grade 10 looks more achievable than grade 9, right? Reason now you guys are more matured and now exam is close by, you are more geared, right? Please use the same energy to cover the grade 9 lessons a little more, right? And do your best, right? Okay, so with that, I'm going to wrap up the meeting. Online students, I need the marks and assignment submission, right? It's very serious. Okay, with that, I'll see you guys next week. Bye. And good luck for the exams as well.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.